It's official, guys. Fani Willis is out of the Georgia election interference case, and the case itself is all but dead. Another piece of the lawfare campaign against our president-elect crumbles. UC Berkeley law professor John Yoo explains it here. Watch.
He's got to get to Fulton County, Georgia. And here we go. A Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, from that election interference case. It's coming down right now. The case against Trump and more than a dozen others already largely stalled, as you know. The new ruling means that it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's council in the state of Georgia to find another prosecutor to decide on the case, to take it over and make a decision as to whether or not they continue with a prosecution of the incoming president.
And former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo is here. John, does this mean that this is yet another one of the cases against Trump that could go away before he's president?
It's another example, Dana, of this lawfare campaign that was waged by Democrats, boomeranging back on them and falling all around their ears. Anyone who watched this trial, remember, this is the DA who claimed that the entire Trump reelection campaign was something like an organized crime racket that was intending to deprive everyone of our civil rights to vote. But remember, we saw the dramatic testimony over the summer of how DA Fani Willis had hired her boyfriend, essentially, to be the special counsel, overpaid him, and then had him investigate and bring charges against Donald Trump. It's a complete conflict of interest. And if you take a quick look at the Georgia Appeals Court decision here, that's what it says. There's such an appearance of impropriety, an appearance of a conflict of interest, that Fani Willis should not be the prosecutor. I think this spells yet another case that's going to have to either be suspended or more likely just ended and tossed out. It's hard for me to see another Georgia district attorney wanting to take up this flawed case and try to prosecute Trump on these theories that his reelection campaign was some kind of criminal organized crime enterprise.
Now, she needs to be criminally charged with misuse of public funds and lying under oath. She and her little boyfriend should be charged with perjury and disbarred. What do you guys think? But someone else that we need to hear from is the woman who made this all happen, attorney Ashley Merchant. Remember, guys, she was the one who initially broke the news about the money-making racket that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade were running with this Trump case. And man, was Ashley Merchant totally on the nose with this one. Check this out.
Well, President-elect Donald Trump's final legal battle is likely over after a Georgia appeals court disqualified Fulton County DA Fani Willis and her team from Trump election interference case. That one, remember? The court writing, an appearance of impropriety generally is not enough to support disqualification. This is the rare case in which disqualification is mandated and no other remedy will suffice to restore public confidence in the integrity of these proceedings. Attorney Ashley Merchant led the effort to oust Willis from the case, and she joins us right now. Ashley, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so if you would, just let's start at the beginning. Explain how you had knowledge that nobody else had that Nathan Wade was having a relationship with the DA, Fani Willis, who hired him.
I know. It's a unique set of circumstances. It's really relationships. So I knew the partner. I knew Nathan Wade. I knew Nathan Wade personally. I knew Fani Willis personally. And I also knew their friends and law partners, their former friends and law partners. And so in the legal community, we were talking about this and they divulged all of this information to me. And I just sort of started tracking it down and closing different loops and investigating. And it blossomed into something that I knew I had to do something about and became actionable.
Yeah, right. And we saw it play out, months ago where the judge in the case was trying to figure out, is there a conflict of interest here? It was so obvious there was. And the irony is the case of the conflict of interest was so much stronger, actually, than the case against Donald Trump.
I know. It really was. It was something that you couldn't turn your eye away from. And I think that's what the Court of Appeals said. This is it's one of those things that you know it when you see it. It's the appearance of impropriety. It is so great that it had to be enough to kick them off the case. And I think it's clear, how Fani Willis has dug in from the beginning. She started this and, she could have done the right thing early on whenever we brought this to everyone's attention and said, hey, let's have a neutral prosecutor handle this case. Let's have someone else look at it. But I think she was terrified because her case is so weak. She didn't want to have someone look at it.
And in fact, she has been saying, up until the bitter end, she would go ahead and wait until the end of the Trump term to bring this case if necessary. Donald Trump had a statement to Fox News Digital. He said, there is no way such corrupt people can lead a case and then gets taken over by somebody else. The case is entirely dead. Everybody should receive an apology, including those wonderful patriots who have been caught up in this for years. So that's what he says. The Wall Street Journal today, Ashley, says a smart move for Georgia would be to end this, drop the case that never should have been brought. But technically, they could keep it alive. It's really up to the state, right?
Right. It's up to a group called Prosecuting Attorneys Council, PAC. It's an independent prosecuting agency. They can decide what to do. But Burt Jones was early, who's our lieutenant governor in Georgia. He was taken off the case early. He was separated out, and Fani Willis was disqualified.
Right.
And when they looked at that, they said, we're not going to prosecute this. So I think I've always thought if a neutral prosecutor, someone who didn't have a financial interest in this case and a political interest in this case, looked at it, that they would see things differently, and they would decide that the taxpayers, the courts, the people who are charged with the case, they deserve this case to be dismissed.
Now, we got to get Letitia James ousted as well. Oh yeah, her and Alvin Bragg. And we also got to keep in mind that this isn't over yet, guys. It's not over until they admit that the case was wrong to begin with and throw it out altogether. Am I right, guys? But yeah, definitely a big, huge win for our president-elect Trump. The judge ruled that removing Fani Willis was crucial to clear the air, or as they put it, to remove the odor of mendacity from the trial. And hey, this is something that we've been saying ourselves for the longest time, guys. The whole situation stinks worse than a rotten fish in a heating vent. Nathan Wade, who was romantically linked with Fani Willis, wasn't just hanging around. He billed taxpayers $250 an hour, accumulating approximately $700,000, despite having no experience in high-profile cases like this one and coming from what was basically a basement office. And he and Fani Willis definitely lived it up while the gravy train was running. While it was running is the key operative phrase, though. The two enjoyed luxury trips to the Caribbean and Central America in 2022 and 2023, all while working on the case. And it doesn't end there, guys. If you guys remember, Nathan Wade was called to the House investigation hearing about this. There, he fully admitted to meeting with the Biden White House twice in 2022 during the investigation. Now, he insists that there was no push from the Biden administration to target Trump. Yeah, sure. So maybe they were just chatting about the weather. I don't know. I'm not quite buying that, are you? So Ashley Merchant said that she believed that Fani Willis stuck to the case despite the scandal because she didn't want anyone else to know how weak the case was. As she explained it, Fani Willis could have done the right thing early on, whether they brought this to anybody's attention and said, hey, let's have a neutral prosecutor handle this case. Let's have someone else look at it. But she was terrified because her case was so weak that she didn't want someone else to look at it. And when the affair came to light, Judge Scott McAfee ruled in March that Fani Willis must either withdraw herself and her team from the 2020 election interference case or remove Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor. Now, following this decision, Nathan Wade resigned from his position from the case, leaving Fani Willis to continue. And frankly, sending Fani Willis packing too was the only sane decision. Ashley Merchant said that it was an obvious decision. Fani Willis's impropriety was something that you just couldn't turn your eye away from. And according to Ashley Merchant, that's something that the Court of Appeals said. Now, I'm just mad it had to take this long for Trump to win the election to get this all done. You know what I mean? So here's the deal while the appellate court didn't scrap the indictment altogether. Removing Fani Willis is a step that nearly does the job. Who would really want to pick up such a compromised case right now, right? In other related news, last month, special counsel Jack Smith finally threw in the towel on the cases that he was chasing. One was already near dead anyway, and the other one was this close. He did say he has plans to issue what is supposed to be an explosive report before he makes his exit. But honestly, who's really surprised here? And who would believe a disgraced lawyer like him anyway? Needless to say, the legal crowd, once eager to take down President-elect Donald Trump, has already thinned dramatically, leaving only two notable figures standing. Manhattan Supreme Court Judge Juan Merchan refuses to drop the 34-count conviction in a questionable hush money case and is also stalling on the sentencing, preventing Trump from appealing. And together with him, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg wants to keep the case on hold while Trump serves his second term, essentially putting a ticking time bomb over the presidency for the next 4 years. Juan Merchan and DA Alvin Bragg seem to be the last holdouts in this witch hunt, and it's high time that they reconsider dropping their pitchforks and just focus on actually serving justice. Now, what Ashley Merchant said about Fani Willis's case, I think it applies to Merchan and DA Alvin Bragg. brag too. The taxpayers, the courts, the people who are all charging the case, they deserve this case to be dismissed. Oh, and let's not forget about crooked Letitia James too. More on her later. But first, just a quick thanks to you guys for watching the video and for also giving the video a thumbs up. I totally appreciate you guys. If you guys appreciate what we're doing here, the news, and more importantly, the analysis of the news, definitely subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell for more. That way you can stay updated and we can keep these videos coming to you guys. All right, so let's get back to this one. From one disgraceful lady lawyer to another, let's talk about New York Attorney General Letitia James because she just won't quit. The latest development, she said she will not drop the civil fraud case against President-elect Donald Trump as she waits for the appeal court decision. So Trump was ordered to pay a $454 million civil fraud judgment in James' lawsuit against him. But James' days are pretty much numbered at this point. So Donald Trump has appealed the ruling, and judges on a New York appeals court seemed receptive to potentially reversing the judgment altogether. But much like Fani Willis, James just can't let it go. In fact, the New York Attorney General's office, that's Letitia James' office, said that they're not going to take action to drop the case against the president-elect. Her argument? That presidents do not have immunity from civil litigation against the unofficial conduct and that lawsuits may proceed while the president is in office. Her other points? That the final judgment does not impact any conduct Trump may undertake as president, that Trump's inauguration is irrelevant to the other 14 defendants found liable in our case, and that waiting for that decision on the civil matter does not in any way affect Trump's ability to serve as president. But see, she doesn't seem to get the whole entire point here. Trump attorney D. John Sawyer even wrote to her to explain that dropping her civil fraud case against him, his family, and his businesses is for the greater good of the country. He brought up Trump's historic election victory, that the 77 million strong voice of America is a call for unity that extends to the legal onslaught against him and his family that permeated this most recent election cycle. And these cases against Trump, Letitia's included, Sawyer called them a flashpoint of national partisan division. So for him, he says that it's necessary for the health of our republic for the strife and lawfare to end. And to Letitia James, he said she now has the singular opportunity to help cure the division. Plus, Letitia James' case involves no victims, no complaints, no misstatements, no causation, and no injuries or losses. Sawyer explained in his letter that President Trump provided clear and unambiguous disclaimers to sophisticated commercial parties who made decisions based on their own due diligence. Every loan and insurance payment was made in full and either on time or early. He even added that Trump's business partners were delighted with these transactions and benefited enormously, making over $100 million in profits, meaning the defendants' counterparties were not deceived, that they performed their own due diligence and eagerly sought and embraced the highly profitable business transaction, and that the challenge statements did not affect the terms of any transaction. I mean, these fully paid back loans that James is harping about, they helped President-elect Trump become one of the most successful developers in the history of New York. And with the money, he rebuilt the New York skyline, he created thousands of jobs, rescued and rejuvenated historic Woolman Rink, developed the $3 billion West Side rail yards from 59th to 72nd Street in Manhattan, and was deeply involved in developing the Jacob Javits Center and is singularly responsible for many other successes. In short, Sawyer pointed out that this malicious lawsuit from Letitia James vindicates no public purpose. Now, what really got me here was the part where Sawyer quoted President Lincoln from the time of our nation's greatest division. President Lincoln called for the American people to set aside their bitter divisions so that the blessings of liberty could be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged as with one heart and one voice by the people, by the whole American people. He urged all Americans to fervently implore the interposition of the almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. And to that, Sawyer added, invoking the same spirit of unity, we can request that Letitia James stipulate to the vacatur of the judgment and dismissal of this case with prejudice. I mean, the way I see it, they're pretty much offering Letitia James an olive branch and giving her an out that'll let her save some face. And, you know, instead of this just completely blowing up in her face when the New York appeals court ultimately decides in Trump's favor. Now, if she continues, she risks being viewed as not just as somebody who lost a legal battle, but but as somebody who chose division over potential reconciliation. But then again, maybe dividing the country even further is exactly what Letitia James wants. That way she can hold on to whatever little power she has. You know what I mean, guys? Drop a quick yes in the comments and subscribe to the channel to show your support for what we're saying here. Oh, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. We can definitely pick this up again in a future video if you guys want. Just say the word, all right? And hey, while I'm working on the next one, you guys, definitely check out our previous videos on the channel. I just uploaded one that's probably gonna knock your socks off. It's about former President Barack Obama blaming Americans yet again for his failure of his party. Seriously, guys, this guy's head needs to get checked out, along with President Joe Biden's. There's definitely something seriously wrong there, but we'll talk about it in that video. Anyway, I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys next time.